Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man might be about to make the biggest comeback in superhero history. For years, Spider-Man 4 was the movie fans never stopped asking for, and now, real clues are starting to appear. Sam Raimi is back in Marvel's world, the multiverse has opened every door, and the demand for Tobey's return is louder than ever. This is not nostalgia, it is opportunity. A chance to give the original Spider-Man the ending he always deserved. Behind closed doors, studios are already setting the stage, and every hint points toward one direction. The legend who started it all could swing back one last time. So let's break down why Spider-Man 4 might finally be happening. When Tobey Maguire appeared through the portal in Spider-Man No Way Home, theaters across the world erupted.
Hello. I hope it's okay. I just came through this, just closed.
Fans had waited almost 15 years to see him back in the suit, and that moment became one of the biggest in modern film history. For many people, Tobey Maguire is the face of Spider-Man. His trilogy in the early 2000s changed how superhero movies were made. The first Spider-Man in 2002 earned over $800 million and proved that comic book stories could dominate the box office. It set the foundation for everything that followed, including the Marvel Cinematic Universe itself. When No Way Home brought Tobey back, it felt like the franchise was paying respect to its roots. The film became a cultural event, earning nearly $1.9 billion worldwide and ranking among the highest-grossing superhero movies in history. Audiences across generations connected in a way that few films ever achieve. Before No Way Home, studios were careful about mixing different versions of the same hero. They feared it might confuse viewers. This movie changed that belief completely. It showed that fans are not only ready for multiple interpretations but are excited by them. The success of the multiverse concept proved that characters can evolve across timelines while still feeling connected. And that is what makes his return so important, because the story that No Way Home opened may not be finished yet. In fact, it may be about to begin again. The story of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man cannot continue without one name: Sam Raimi. Back in 2010, Raimi had Spider-Man 4 in active development. The script was nearly complete, the storyboards were drawn, and the Vulture was planned as the main villain. John Malkovich had already been approached for the role.
Sam, I won't be spoken to in that manner.
You talking back to me?
But after creative conflicts and studio pressure to rush the project, Raimi decided to walk away.
Sony Pictures says it's decided to reboot the franchise. That means Tobey Maguire is out, Kirsten Dunst is out, and director Sam Raimi is gone as well.
He believed the film would not meet his standards, and the project was canceled. That decision ended Tobey's run, at least for a while. More than a decade later, everything changed. Raimi returned to Marvel with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It marked his first superhero film since Spider-Man 3, and it reminded everyone why his style was so unique. His direction mixed emotion, tension, and horror in a way no one else could. The movie proved that Raimi still understood how to balance heart with spectacle. In interviews since then, Raimi has said openly that he would love to make another Spider-Man film if given the opportunity. He called Tobey's return in No Way Home beautiful, and said that seeing the fans' reaction made him think about continuing that story.
I didn't think it was possible, but after jumping back in with the multiverse, I realized that, just like Doctor Strange does, anything is possible now. So I'm completely open to it.
That spark of interest matters, because if Spider-Man 4 ever happens, it needs the same creative vision that began it. Raimi's style fits perfectly with an older Peter Parker. He uses practical effects, grounded emotion, and moments of fear that reflect real human struggle. His version of Spider-Man was never about saving the world. It was about saving himself from the weight of responsibility.
I think if we were to make a fourth Spider-Man film, we'd probably have to figure out the journey that Tobey Maguire's character would be going on and what obstacles he had to overcome to achieve.
And that emotional depth is exactly what the next chapter needs. Because if anyone can bring Tobey's Spider-Man back with purpose, it is the man who created him. The idea of continuing Tobey's Spider-Man story only works if the people who built that world still believe in it. And they do. After No Way Home, Tobey Maguire spoke about his return in several interviews. He said he felt immediate love stepping back into the suit, and that he would be open to coming back again, as long as the story had meaning. He did not sound like an actor closing a chapter. He sounded like someone waiting for the right one. Kirsten Dunst, who played Mary Jane Watson, shares that same feeling. She has said more than once that she would love to return, especially if the story explored Peter and MJ as parents. She even joked about MJ having little spider babies in interviews.
Spider-Man 4 will probably happen if Sam and Tobey are willing to do it, then I am too. It's just, dependent on us three coming together.
But behind the humor was real interest. Both she and Tobey know how deeply fans are attached to their characters, and neither of them has ever dismissed the idea of revisiting that world. This matters because these two actors are not just symbols of nostalgia. They are part of a generation that grew up with superhero cinema before it became a billion-dollar machine. Their chemistry was real, their story was emotional, and audiences still connect to it today. Right now, the Spider-Man universe is in a position fans could only dream of a few years ago. The rights and deals that once caused chaos between studios are now the very reason a Tobey Maguire comeback can happen.
Sony now desperate to make money on any way that they can off of this IP, and they're like, please, we need to make $1 billion again. Put in Andrew, put in Tobey, let's do it. It looks like Marvel bent the knee on that one.
Sony owns the movie rights to Spider-Man. Marvel Studios only gets to use him when he appears in the MCU. That separation gives Sony the power to tell its own stories whenever it wants. And that is exactly what they have been doing. Venom built its own world. Across the Spider-Verse proved that multiple versions of Spider-Man can exist at once. Even Morbius and Madam Web, despite their flaws, showed Sony is willing to experiment with parallel timelines. When Sony and Marvel renewed their deal in 2019, both sides agreed that Spider-Man could appear in separate universes as long as their stories did not conflict. That simple clause changed everything. It means Tobey Maguire can exist in his own timeline without touching Tom Holland's MCU story. Sony has already seen the power of nostalgia. No Way Home made over $1.9 billion, and most of that buzz came from seeing Tobey and Andrew return. The message was clear: fans are not done with them. Sony executives later admitted they are open to exploring more stories with legacy Spider-Man if the timing and story feel right. So the studio setup is not a barrier anymore. It is an open path. The business side, the legal side, and the audience demand all line up perfectly. Everything needed for Spider-Man 4 is sitting on the table. All that is left is for the right people to step forward and make it real. For years, studios worried that audiences would be confused by having more than one version of a hero on screen. That fear is gone now. Fans are smarter, stories are bolder, and the multiverse has changed everything. DC has already proven that this idea works. Robert Pattinson's Batman exists in his own grounded world filled with detective noir and realism. At the same time, James Gunn is building a completely new Batman for his shared DC universe. Two Batmen, two tones, two audiences, and no one is confused. Both films have their place because they serve different creative visions. This shift in storytelling is the key. Audiences today understand that a character can exist in multiple versions without breaking the illusion. The Flash movie even brought back Michael Keaton's Batman from 1989, and fans celebrated it. Nobody questioned how it fit into the timeline. People just enjoyed seeing the legend return. The same logic can apply perfectly to Spider-Man. Tom Holland can continue to grow as the younger hero in the MCU, full of energy and crossover potential. Meanwhile, Tobey Maguire can exist in a more mature and emotional universe, where time and experience shape his story. One shows the beginning of the journey, the other shows the cost of living it. Sony would not even have to take risks with continuity. The multiverse has already done the heavy lifting. No Way Home made the audience accept that every Spider-Man counts. Fans now crave variety, not uniformity. Two Batmen worked because both were true to their vision. Two Spider-Men can work for the same reason. And if DC can pull it off, there is no reason Marvel and Sony cannot. If Spider-Man 4 ever happens, it will not be an empty nostalgia project. The story has already been written across years of Marvel Comics. The blueprint for an older Peter Parker is right there, waiting to be adapted. In Spider-Man Reign, Peter is no longer the bright, hopeful kid swinging between skyscrapers. He is older, broken, and haunted by the loss of Mary Jane. New York has fallen under a police state, and the world feels colder than it once was. Yet when the city needs him again, he puts the mask back on. It is dark, emotional, and deeply human, exactly the kind of story that could define a comeback for Tobey Maguire's version. Fans have even compared Reign to The Dark Knight Returns, because it explores what happens when a hero grows old in a world that has moved on. Then there's MC2 and the story of Mayday Parker, the daughter of Peter and MJ. She inherits her father's powers, but her story is about more than swinging from rooftops. It is about legacy, about what happens when the next generation picks up the weight you once carried. That setup could easily form the emotional core of a Spider-Man 4 movie. A father trying to protect his child while realizing he cannot shield her from everything. These stories prove something important. Peter's journey never ends with age. It evolves. He can be a mentor, a father, and still a hero. Raimi's direction already leaned toward emotional depth and moral struggle, and these comic arcs fit that style perfectly. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man has always been more than web-swinging. His story was about loss, love, and the price of doing the right thing. Fans connected with him because he felt human. He failed, he tried again, and he never stopped caring. Now picture that same Peter Parker, years later, older and quieter, living a simple life with Mary Jane and their children.
dream film for him would be a Spider-Man 4 where Peter and MJ have a kid and exploring that kind of dynamic, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes with being a parent, and then that clashing with being Spider-Man, there's a lot to explore there.
Spider-Man 4 could begin with Peter living in peace. He has left the mask behind. His hands are rough from work, not from fighting. He spends his days fixing things around the house and telling his kids stories about courage without ever saying where those lessons came from. But secrets never stay buried. One of his children could find the old suit in the attic. Or maybe a villain from the past discovers that Spider-Man has a family. That is when Peter's world begins to shake again. This story would not be about saving the world. It would be about protecting home. About a man who thought he had closed the chapter on being a hero, but learns that the fight never truly ends. It is smaller, more personal, and far more emotional. Fans are not asking for another City in Flames or another crossover of multiverses. They want a story that feels real. They want to see a man who has given everything finally face the hardest challenge of all, being human. Spider-Man 4 could be that story. A film that shows what it means to grow older, to hold on to love, and to pass on hope. It is the kind of ending that feels honest, and the kind that only Tobey Maguire could give. Every great Spider-Man story is built around its villain, not just someone to fight, but someone who reflects Peter's own struggle. For an older Peter Parker, the best choice has always been the Vulture. Sam Raimi had already planned to bring him into Spider-Man 4 back in 2010, with John Malkovich lined up to play the role. The idea was powerful even then, but now it feels perfect. The Vulture is a man consumed by time. He feels forgotten, discarded by the world that once admired his genius. His wings are heavy, his body is breaking down, and every flight feels like it could be his last. That same weariness lives inside an older Peter Parker. Both men are trying to hold on to what time is taking away. One chooses anger, the other chooses responsibility. Their fight would not just be physical, it would be about what time does to people when they stop feeling useful. Raimi's direction would give this story real weight. His mix of emotion and horror could make the Vulture more than a villain. Imagine tense close-ups, shadows moving through narrow alleys, and the sound of metal wings echoing in the dark. Raimi did this with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and long before that in Spider-Man 2 with the hospital scene. He knows how to blend fear and heart without losing balance.
And I hope that the villain would be chosen based on a representation of that obstacle.
Have you thought of what that obstacle would possibly be in your dream world?
I haven't, because I'd have to know what the next thing that character has to learn. I'd have to talk with Tobey and the writers and really figure out what his personal growth for this.
Other villains could work too. Kraven the Hunter, for example, would test Peter's limits as a protector. A grounded threat tied to Oscorp could dig deeper into guilt and morality. But the Vulture feels right because his story runs parallel to Peter's. Both men face the same truth. Age comes for everyone. The difference is how you choose to face it. If this happens, it will not just be another superhero movie. It will be a story about aging, forgiveness, and legacy. The kind of film that reminds us why Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man mattered in the first place. If you love deep stories like this and want to see more breakdowns of comic book movies that deserve a comeback, make sure to subscribe. Every week we explore the past, present, and future of your favorite heroes.